I put a post in the group last night around some questions around emotional eating, asking what do people want to know around emotional eating. I'm just going to wait until, of course, I've always got too many windows open. So I just wanted to do a little bit of a riff today on emotional eating, talk a little bit more about emotional eating, because I would say 80% of what I do is mindset and doing work on the blocks that stop us in the emotional component, because food is very, very emotional. Now, some of the questions that were, it's emotional from many different aspects, right? But some of the questions were in the group. How do I overcome emotional eating when I'm happy or sad? I emotionally eat a little bit, won't matter, or I might hate myself afterwards. When you're stressed and then you eat and something and feel better, what exactly is play out here? So there's quite a few questions around like sort of going, I'm having a craving, or I'm emotionally eating, how do I control it? So I just wanted to talk to that a little bit today, because I find it is such a huge part of what I do, working with women in their hormones and working on their relationship with food and their health and their bodies, and food in particular. Here's the reality: food is emotional, and you're not going to not have an emotional connection with food. But what I'm hearing people say to me time and time again is, how do I stop how do I stop those behaviors that are self-sabotaging? How do I feel like I've got more control over the food choices I make? And how do I not feel guilt and shame for it afterwards? So there's several bits of parts to this. And food is emotional. We in cultures and traditions, doesn't matter what cultural tradition you're from, food is celebrated. We connect with food. We have food at weddings. We have food at christenings, at funerals. We go out for meals. We connect with each other in community with food. But food has also become a distractive agent, and there's an addictive component to that, and it can play out for many different people, but it's really a numbing out of not feeling your feelings. And we often will go to things that are addictive, so caffeine and sugar, that give us that dopamine hit that immediately make us feel better, right? And then afterwards, we've done the crime. We've done something and we feel ashamed for it. So we feel shame or we feel guilt, and we judge the shit out of ourselves and make ourselves wrong. And we also eat on the run, and using sugar and coffee as a constant like pick me up. And so here's my story. I have had many different relationships with food over the years. My relationship with food has changed dramatically. I guess particularly over the last 3 or 4 years. I definitely used to have a sugar addiction, and I can definitely be leaning towards using sugar or dark chocolate as my go-to if I'm going to emotionally eat. And what I have found is there's several aspects to this. So when I was healing my own hormones, I realized there's several different parts to cravings. I used to get cravings where I felt like I was totally out of control, and I would have to march my ass to a supermarket if I was at work, or get a big pack of M&Ms, I never went for salty, I always went for sweet, or some sort of chocolate, and that was my go-to. Now, here's the thing. It doesn't matter whether it's food or whether it's coffee or whether it's drugs or whether it's alcohol or whether it's sex or your phone, it's still an addiction, and there's still this chemical reaction that happens in the body. It's just that some in society are considered worse than others, and some are harder to get than others. And there's more exposure with food, like food is everywhere. And so that element of food being in our life is, we can't completely eliminate it because we also need it from a survival mechanism, right? So there's two elements to this, and what I have really learned in my own process is the better I got at regulating my own nervous system and actually learning how to go inside and feel my feelings and not make myself wrong, the better I also got at emotional eating. However, I also, as I started to change my diet and make changes and get the foundations right and address deficiencies, I didn't have the same cravings that I used to have. So there's this combination of, when we're talking about food, emotional eating, cravings, we want to go, okay, what aspect is, because the biochemistry is also our emotions. Our emotion creates biochemistry in the body. And so when we're talking about the biochemistry, we want to go, okay, what part is emotional and what part is actually some other processes in the body that are happening that could be impacting the emotional eating. But cortisol, our nervous system, how our nervous system is in, if we're in a state of alarm or if we're in a state of calm, parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest, that will play out on how we actually use food. And it also comes down to the way that we've been brought up as kids, because I know people who are clients and also friends that have had this relationship with food, and you see this a lot, where food has been a reward for doing the right thing, or as a way to connect with your parent or loved one. And the way then that we actually feel connected is actually going back to those foods. And we can all have that experience where you've been in a place and you've had this amazing food experience, and I could take you back there, and I just think, go back to that feeling where you had this amazing food experience. Who were you with? What were you wearing? Often it's on holidays. What was the experience of that piece of food? I'll give you one example. I will still remember this. You know, when there's meals that you've had and you just will never forget them. And you can go back to there, and you can actually, as I'm thinking about this experience, I'm feeling the biological responses from even just thinking about that, even though I'm not having that experience now. And so I remember when I first went to Europe, I actually I did like a under 30s tour, top deck tour thing around Europe when I first went to Europe. And I was with a girlfriend, and we did this, and we decided it would be a good way to just meet people and not have to give a shit. And basically it's a party fest. And we did that. And I remember being actually quite hungover after we'd been somewhere, and we were on the Autobahn in Italy, and we stopped at the Autobahn, which is, just like the service station. And there was this big Italian mama behind the bench, and everyone was getting snacks, and my friend was like, no, screw that, I actually want a proper meal. And she went through, and I followed her, and there was this big Italian mama cooking this pasta, and I was like, okay, I want that. And I kid you not, it was still to this day one of the best pastas I've ever had. And I remember the taste. It was so simple. It was just like this tomato sauce, like an arrabbiata like sauce. It was just amazing. And maybe it was also because I was hungover, I don't know, but it was amazing. And I can go back to that moment and have a moment, and it reminds me of this experience. And I have many stories like that of food. and I can remember it, and then I think about my holiday and I think about the trip, and there were so many fun things that happened on that trip, you know. So food is emotional. It doesn't matter what we do. We've all had experiences like that where we remember the experience, we remember the food, we remember the culture that went with it if we were traveling. And it's very complex to begin with when we're talking about food. But then there's also that a moment of when we're talking about emotional eating, we're not talking about when we're on holidays and we're having this amazing time and our nervous system is in a state of calm. We're actually talking about when we're in our day-to-day and our nervous system is not in a state of calm and we feel stressed and there's emotions that come up, and we will go and feel like we have no control and go and make choices because we don't have control. Now, what I have found is when I start working with women to actually teach them how to regulate their nervous system and connect more into their feelings and give them some tools to actually connect and feel their feelings. This is not about getting better at not emotionally eating. This is actually about getting better at feeling your feelings. And to begin, and it's the thing that no one wants to hear, but the reality is we've got to start to get better at feeling more, not just feeling better, because that is what causes the emotional pattern anyway. It's like, I feel so uncomfortable right now, or there's these underlying patterns and there's these things going on. I don't know what to do. I just want to go and distract myself with food. And as I have worked with women, I've got one particular client I'm thinking at the moment who has always struggled with emotional eating. And as we're starting to do this regulation, giving her some regulation tools, she's starting to realize, she's like, I have more control over my choices now, purely because she's finding that she can make choices that are not driven by these escaping her emotions, because she's got the ability to go inward and reset and connect to herself and actually not make herself wrong for where she's at. And the biggest thing is we feel so uncomfortable, or it's so uncomfortable for us to sit in discomfort, and we want to avoid at all costs, because human beings will move away from pain or move towards pleasure, and generally we will move away from pain. And that's what drives a lot of this emotional eating, because we're moving away from pain and going towards pleasure. So it's like a double whammy, and it's like moving away, and there's a dopamine high that comes with sugar, or that comes with coffee, or that comes with carbohydrates. And we also get a spike in blood sugar levels, and we get a little bit of a high, and we feel better for that moment. And so then that brings me into my other aspect of also going, you've got to make sure that the biochemistry from a nutritional point of view is also working well. In other words, what your diet is like and what deficiencies are going on, and are those deficiencies being addressed? Because if, for example, your blood sugar levels are all over the shop, they're not a stable, release of energy into the blood, and then goes off a little bit, like it's not going to be totally stable. But compared to the roller coaster, what happens is when we have a peak in blood sugar levels, and then we crash, and then we need more quick energy because we haven't got it, and our body becomes very dysfunctional at burning fuel, and we become insulin resistant. And I've spoken about this before, but that combination of not having enough minerals, not being able to absorb what we eat, and not being able to get the energy into the cell to actually make the energy, can be a combination of things, right? So that's one aspect. The other aspect then is our nervous system, and going, okay, what tools have we got to regulate our nervous system so that we're actually not in a state of alarm, and we can start to make conscious choices. And this comes down to bringing in practices in your day to day so that you can slowly create capacity and momentum to actually be able to deal with more stressful situations. Because what I'm talking about is stress, cortisol, a state of being in a state of alarm, where you're responding from your response is an embodied response of reaction from a wound that is not in this moment, and it's a default mechanism, and it's our body trying to protect ourselves. So we either go into a state of alarm or we'll retract and withdraw. And food plays part of that, because food is the distraction from this discomfort that we're constantly feeling. And so if we need to regulate emotional eating, what we're talking about is we've got to start regulating our nervous system and learn to actually do the work around ourselves and understand ourselves on a deeper level so that we can actually process emotion, because emotion is coming up in the body so that it can leave. And if it gets stored in the body, eventually it can manifest as symptoms in the body, because it's energy, emotion, energy in motion. And so it needs to leave, and often there will be blocked energy that gets stored in the body, and then that can manifest as different things. And when we don't know how to acknowledge our feelings, then it will manifest as anxiety or depression or digestive symptoms or skin symptoms. It can be low energy or high energy. It can have such a massive impact. And so I just want you to take a moment. If you're watching this and you are struggling with emotional eating, I want you to just take a moment, take a big deep breath in through your nose, feel your tummy expand, and breathe out through your mouth. And do a couple more of those. Breathe in and breathe out. And the first step is to close your eyes down and just take a few deep breaths. So whenever you feel some sort of craving come on, feeling like you want to move into a go-to, breathe in, breathe out. And just go into the sensation in the body. And I want you to just notice, where is that alarm in your body right now? Where can you feel it? And take a couple more deep breaths. And then just ask yourself, how are you feeling right now? What are you craving? Even just getting conscious to the sensation of the craving. If there's a craving that's happening, is there some sort of feeling where your body is taken over control? Let's just notice that feeling. Or is there another emotion under there that you can really notice, like sadness or anger or grief or stress? By the way, is not a feeling. A lot of people say stress. That's not a feeling. Stress is like an umbrella term. It's like my nervous system is fucked. I'm feeling stressed. Yeah, not really a feeling. Like it's like I'm feeling negative emotions, but I don't really want to label them because it's uncomfortable and I don't want to go into them. So I'm just going to umbrella things. And so can you actually just, from feel that sensation in your body and sit with it and just make it okay? And so if you're having a craving or if you're having a feeling, can you just let yourself know that it's okay? Notice where there's resistance. Notice the need to want to run away or to get the hell out of here or to push against it. Just notice the resistance in your body. And it's also okay to feel resistance. And can you just give yourself full permission to feel whatever feelings are in your body right now? And keep breathing. It's okay to feel them. And I'm allowed to feel them. It's safe to feel them. And I want you to just notice what happens in your body when you actually just acknowledge that feeling. What happens to the feeling, or the sensation, or the craving? And ask yourself, am I still hungry right now? Or is it a little bit less? And then just check in with your body and ask your body, what do you need right now? Is it low in energy? Is it thirst? Is it hunger? And sometimes thirst can be mistaken for hunger. Sometimes emotions can be mistaken for hunger. So just identifying that feeling in your body is the first step. And then once you don't make yourself wrong for where you're at, asking yourself, what do you need right now? What do I need right now? Given what I'm going through, what do I need? It could be a walk. It could be to dance around your lounge room. It could be go and drink a heap of water. I've done other videos on the biochemistry behind cravings as well. It could be you need some magnesium or some B vitamins. It could be that you need some beautiful, nourishing food. And just tuning in and having that conversation with yourself is the practice to begin with. Not making yourself wrong where you're feeling. And this is where emotional feelings come from. The other thing that came up in those questions was, oh, well, I associate fun, love and fun with food. And that to me is an element of, are you giving enough love and fun to yourself, and does it need to come through food, because you're still relying on an external source to fulfill you. And it doesn't mean that you can't enjoy a meal, but you've got to really question where it's coming from. Is this a void I'm trying to feel, or a pain I'm trying to avoid? Am I trying to create more connection with people? What am I trying to create here? What am I trying to get? What need is it serving? What benefit is this habit serving to me right now? And getting really clear on what benefit is it giving me? How is it serving? What's the payoff? What's the emotional payoff? And sometimes there can be an element of going, yeah, well, I'm not feeling connected to these people, my partner, or these people. This is how I feel connection. Okay, can you at first start to connect to yourself and give you what you need? And that starts with actually acknowledging how you're feeling. Maybe you're feeling lonely. Maybe you're feeling sad. And so this nervous system regulation is big, deep work, and I can't go into it all in one go. But what I find is when I personally have a craving, if I can just breathe and really, if I'm having a craving and it's an emotional eating, I know I'm highly emotional, or I know I'm not in a centered state. If I can go inward and connect to myself first, take a few deep breaths and connect into the feelings in my body. And I did this before I got on this call, and I actually realized I was quite thirsty. And I went and had some magnesium and was feeling a little lethargic. And so just going, okay, I'm just going to do some breaths. And if I've got some energy to move through my body, how am I going to do it? movement through your body. Maybe moving through your body is one of the best ways to move the energy through your body. And it could be through dance, it could be through going and working out, it could be just taking a walk, the dog for a walk around the block, but getting out in the sunshine. But we can't really identify what is going to be best for us when we're in that state of alarm. And so we've got to first start to bring practice in to actually get ourselves out of this alarm. And when I did that, I could have gone for sugar in that moment. But I took a couple of breaths and really tuned into what my body needed. And I was like, I'm thirsty. I actually need some thirst. I need some water. And then I need to probably go outside and sit in the sun for a little bit after I've gotten off this call. So that was me tuning into my body. But when we have more highly volatile emotions pulsing through our veins, and we've got a lot of cortisol, say we're going through a real emotional reaction and we're angry, what's your go-to? Is your go-to to go for sweet? Is it to go for salty? And it's just starting to identify, is it a craving, like as in I need energy, or is it I'm trying to distract myself? And can you just start to build the practice in, and this comes into bringing in embodied practices every day into your day, so that this isn't new, this becomes more like second nature work. Because when we're in that moment where we are highly emotional, or we do have big cravings, or we do feel like we're going to kill someone in a state of hangry, our brain doesn't function in a normal way. And so we've got to start to learn to regulate. Even practicing being okay with hunger. How are you with hunger? Is hunger uncomfortable for you? It's like, it's okay to be hungry. I'm allowed to be hungry. I'm not going to die from being hungry. It's safe to feel hungry. And a lot of us are not comfortable with hunger as well, and that feeling of hunger. And because that is also an uncomfortable feeling just as much as an emotion is uncomfortable feeling, and just tuning into that. And if we don't have those practices on day-to-day moment to actually bring ourselves more into our bodies, it's going to be a lot harder. So there's the two aspects of, is the biochemistry messing with my ability to make decisions over food choices? And is my emotional biochemistry influencing my biochemistry? And so, in other words, aka my nervous system, how is that impacting my hormones? And some women, in particular, like if you have a thyroid issue and you're low in energy, you're going to constantly be reaching for snacks. If you've got insulin resistance, you're going to be it's going to be a struggle. And the first thing is, you've got to go and start to address that foundation and get that foundation right. At the same time, working on your nervous system and the tools to work through it. This has got to be a multi-pronged approach. It can't just be one thing. But this is the emotional eating, is acknowledging how you're feeling, and then if you've gone and eaten something that you then feel shame for, can you just acknowledge the shame that you're feeling and not make yourself wrong for the process that you've just gone through? And a good question to ask yourself is, how is my nervous system feeling right now? Why does it make sense that I made that decision? And if you can see the process, also have some reflection on those times that you felt like things went pear-shaped, then you'll actually be able to reflect and go, okay, I can see my nervous system was not happy then. It was in a state of alarm. I was quite stressed. I don't like using that word. I was in a state of alarm. Okay. So it makes sense then that I actually went and reached for the quick energy. What skills do I actually need to learn in this process that I know are not helping me? Maybe I don't know how to prepare healthy meals. But I would say for most people, it's not about knowing what to do, because a lot of us know what to do. It's actually about there's some sort of block between what we do and where we are and where we want to be. And that bridge to that is often feeling the uncomfortable feelings and having some processes in place to get over to the other side. And it doesn't mean that it goes away, but it's encompassing more of the parts of you that you're not willing to acknowledge or see, and also not making yourself wrong for where you're at. And we beat ourselves up and we're like, we should be further along, and then the cycle continues. And also, one of the things I've been saying a lot to my clients lately is, remember, every day is day one. So if you are struggling with emotional eating, you've got to remember that every day is a new beginning, and every moment is a new beginning. Every inhale and exhale is a new beginning. And one of the patterns that I notice people do is they will start to slide and they'll spiral, will be because then they'll be like, what's the point? I may as well just keep going. And there's a spiral that happens in that. But every day is day one, and it's the small little steps. It's the small little things you do each day to look after yourself, to care for yourself, to check in with yourself, to practice those feelings, that then when things come up and get hard, you've already got those muscles strengthened and toned so that you can start to work with things. It's an ongoing process, this, and it's not a simple answer, but I hope you got some insight around that. I hope you found that helpful. If you have any comments, please comment below, please like it, and I will endeavor to answer them. Please share it with anyone that you think might need this info, and I'll see you guys soon. Have a beautiful day. Bye.